Welcome back to GTD. I'm Micah Farmer, joined as always by Keegan Miller, and it's time for our Pocono preview. It is triangle time
Bang.
here on GTD as we get
That's
you
right.
set for NASCAR's first and this year only race in the Pocono Mountains up in Pennsylvania. And
Thank goodness.
it should be, I would say it should be a fun one, but it's Pocono. But we've had good racing, so I'm going to say it should be a fun one anyway. I believe in Pocono this year. I believe we're going to have a good Pocono race. And coming into this one, SVG has locked himself into the playoffs. So now there are only 6 spots left on points. So let's get right into our race picks. Ian, do you think we see another new winner? Do you think the playoff cut line moves again? Who are you going for the win at Pocono?
I don't think we see a new winner. I don't think we see any big shakeups as far as playoff implications go. Pocono is pretty much in the next era so far, it's kind of been your run of the mill races. Your veterans and guys who dominate week in and week out tend to dominate here. Your Denny Hamlin's, Kyle Larson's, guys like him, Hendrick cars do well here. Your echelon like Joe Gibbs, 2311 when they're on form, they kind of dominate here. So I don't see any shakeup happening. And with that being said, I am going with one of the favorites who's, a favorite every week. That's Kyle Larson. Been out of victory lane for a little bit. I say a little bit, but I mean, his last win was a monstrous one. But I think, it's like Max Verstappen to point. You can only keep him down so long. And he's kind of just been not nowhere, but just not where he'd like to be last few weeks. And I think he really takes Pocono as a track he's good at and kind of like, maybe not dominates. Maybe there's some battling with him and Denny Hamlin, who's always very good here, and maybe some other cars who show up and, fade back or whatever. And we've seen a lot of strategy this year. And, with Cliff Daniels is with Kyle Larson, that's match made in heaven. So I'm going Kyle Larson to get the dub this weekend.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. Usually that half of Hendrick, Larson, Bowman is very good at Pocono, and the other two are a little bit off. So curious to see if that's the case again this weekend with Bowman's recent kind of off and on nature, but I think Larson definitely will be one to watch. I'm going with one of the other two drivers with 3 wins on the season. It's Christopher Bell. This place is owned a lot of the time by Joe Gibbs Racing and especially Denny Hamlin. However, it's been a while since Bell has been to victory lane. It was since race 4 of the season, and I think he's on his way back there this weekend. The 20 cars had good speed in recent weeks, finished second in Mexico last weekend. So give me Christopher Bell to take it to the winner's circle. Although I think the fact that 2 of us have gone for 2 of the 3-time winners so far this season, and neither one of us picked Denny Hamlin, means that Denny Hamlin will probably end up winning this race. He's so good here. He is a lead at Pocono, the best driver in the series at Pocono. I would also watch out for Ryan Blaney. He got his first win here, loves this place. And then, like I briefly mentioned earlier, Alex Bowman definitely has speed here as well. But let's get into some even more under the radar guys. Let's do dark horse picks. Keegan, who you got your eye on this week?
I have Denny Hamlin's teammate. In Denny Hamlin, I might have been more inclined to take him if he hadn't got his baby win. He got it before he was born, right? So like the week before he missed from Mexico. So you'd think it'd be a really cool story. Oh, he comes back and wins for his kid, but he won right before his kid, and I think that still counts. So not as big as a story.
According to Keegan, if you have a win before you have the kid, you're not allowed to win right after. That's how it works.
You're done. No, yeah. So I'm going Ty Gibbs. I mentioned his teammate. Ty Gibbs has still yet to break through, and it was last year was only we're talking about it. Oh, it's only a matter of time, and then the summer was just abysmal for him and a lot of mechanical failures, and they just failed to find speed pretty much until recently this season. But he's back. He's finding that speed that he had at the beginning of last year. He's got some more just races under his belt, so he can kind of control things better in the car, control his own destiny a little better. So hopefully, I'm not saying he breaks through this weekend, but I think there's a good chance he continues that top 5 speed that we've seen out of him recently.
Well, he got a top 5 in the dark horse category for me a couple weeks ago, so let's see if he does it for you. I'm going with yet another Toyota, and that is Eric Jones. Eric Jones is a 10.7 average finish here at Pocono over the last 3 races. That includes a top 5 a couple years ago. So Eric Jones definitely one to watch at this place. This is a guy that can sometimes outdrive the legacy equipment at places like Darlington, Pocono, and has really been decent the last couple of months. Had the top 5 run all day at Nashville until falling back. Ran top 10 most of the day in the Coke 600 before again falling back towards the end. But the 43 cars had speed in recent weeks. I think that this is one of Eric's favorite tracks. I think they show up well. Eric Jones takes it into the top 10 and maybe even the top 5 this weekend at Pocono.
Well, I think his whole destiny this weekend is going to come down to which side of the coin it lands on over at Legacy. Are they going to give all the speed to the 42 or all the speed to 43? Because it seems like they've had one car just perfectly capable to be in the top 10, top 5, if you will, and the other car is just kind of like what are we doing this week? So I think they're going to start figuring that out. Like they're still fairly new as far as partnerships go to Toyota, and you're starting to see that meld together and work. So I think eventually you're going to see both of them running the top 10 this season, and hopefully that comes sooner than later. So I don't hate that pick at all.
Well, it was John Hunter Nemechek's week last week. Ran top five for a lot of the day. I believe ended up finishing sixth last week in Mexico. So maybe it's Eric Jones's turn this week. But we mentioned Toyota. They're usually very good here. Joe Gibbs Racing has been super fast. 2311 has been good here as well. Tyler Reddick has an average finish of 3.3 in his last three races here, including two top fives. Bubba Wallace is great here too, has an average finish of 9.7 with two top tens. However, 2311 this year, and especially Tyler Reddick, having a down year. I would say Bubba Wallace has bounced back nicely. I would say his down year was more last year, but still, you look at the body of work overall for this team, and they just don't seem on it. I don't know what it is, especially for Tyler Reddick. It seems like he is super fast at the start of a lot of these races and then just falls away. Wrecked himself off the front of Daniel Suarez at Texas. Has had other great runs where he's slid back due to pit road miscues. Had a penalty at Charlotte. And then you look earlier in the year, just not having speed. At Homestead, we expected him to be right up there battling for the win. Ran 15th most of the day or back into the top 10 sometimes. I don't know what it is with Reddick this year. And as a guy who is a pretty good fan of Tyler Reddick, I hate seeing him run like this week in and week out because we know the talent's there. And for whatever reason, he's just not showing it so far this season. I mean, you pull up the point standings and he's sitting in sixth, which is okay, but he's 127 points off William Byron. This is a guy who's the regular season champion last year. And Bubba Wallace also top 10 in points, but again, way off Reddick. And if Reddick's having a down year and Wallace is now still way off Reddick, and you could argue that a lot of this year Wallace has been running better, just neither of these teams seem to be able to finish races.
Yeah, and last year you mentioned he was regular season champion, and it was almost a grind for him to get there. He was consistently good last year, but he was always chasing Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson for most of the year up until the end, where he took down Chase Elliott, and then it was just him and Larson come down to the final race.
Well, the two summer wins helped.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's what happened. I think he wasn't all that great until Talladega. Then he wins Talladega, and then all of a sudden he was arguably the best driver in the field from that Talladega win to the playoffs started. So maybe it's just he needs to break through and get a win. Maybe he's just one of those guys who, when things aren't running well, I mean, they're all like this. When things aren't going well, they're all in their head, and all it takes is a win for them to break through. We've seen it with Ryan Blaney multiple times throughout his career. He's had, stretches of rough seasons, gets a win, never looks back. We see it with Joe Logano last year. You've seen it with guys happen, and maybe Tyler Reddick's just wired like that, where he's gone almost. We're a little under halfway. We're more than halfway through the regular season, and he's yet to get a win. Down. Right, and he's yet to get a win. So maybe that's starting to in the back of his head, I should be competing week in and week out. And he has been competing, but he's not been competitive, if that makes sense. And he hasn't really contended for much wins. So maybe that's just wearing on him. But I think a win would really do him numbers. And he's going to get one this year. He's got the talent. He's got the speed. I hope it's not. I don't know if it's a 2311 thing. I don't know what's going on because Bubba Wallace has been running well. He's starting to bounce back a little bit. So we'll see what happens. And also the lawsuit. I mean, there's a lot going on at 2311. So I'm very interested and curious to see if they can continue to bring speed to the racetrack or if this just spirals down with everything that's going on outside of the track.
Yeah, I've seen some people throw out it's like when Front Row was good in JGR equipment and JGR nuked Front Row. I don't think it's that going on, especially with Denny Hamlin being the owner of the team. I highly doubt JGR would intentionally nuke 2311. But you mentioned he's kind of not quite there, but he's showing up sometimes and still having good points days. And that reminds me of the guy right above him in the playoff standings. You look 11 and 12 in the playoff standings, plus 146, plus 123. It's Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick. Chase Elliott, never there at the start of the races, gets no stage points, usually finishes pretty decent. Tyler Reddick, there at the start of the race, qualifies well, gets a ton of stage points, and then just vanishes. So it's two guys who neither of them can put a complete race together. Neither of them can show up with winning speed, but they're amassing so many points, you feel like they're playoff locks, even though they're not technically playoff locks. They're only 11th and 12th in the standings right now. They feel very similar to me.
So with that being said, in your opinion of what you've seen so far, who do you think either breaks through first and gets a win first or has a better shot, in the playoffs and later down the year?
I think Reddick does purely because he's shown the ability to run up front in the top three, top five, and it's driver miscues that are taking him back. If he can iron that out, I think with the pace they have to win at some point. Whereas Chase Elliott, you're going to need a couple guys in front of you to have those problems if you're going to have a sixth or eighth place car and then look to win the race to the end. I think more has to go Chase Elliott's way than it does Tyler Reddick's based on the speed of those two teams so far.
I would say I think Tyler Reddick has maybe better opportunity to get the win first and maybe get a win. But I think over the course of the year, I still think Chase Elliott will be one leg ahead of him as far as points go and putting just weeks back to back to back to back together rather than going and winning a race. And
Elliott's right up there with the most consistent drivers in the series. I would say him, yeah. Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney are the three, or maybe Denny Hamlin over Kyle Larson, kind of your three hallmarks of consistency, whereas Reddick, when he's on, he is one of the best in the series, but very prone to those high-profile mistakes. We saw it at the Roval last year in the first part of the race, just nuked into the back of a couple cars. So definitely anything could happen with either of those guys. But looking a little bit further down the playoff grid, as we head into Pocono, Chris Buescher sits 19 points above the cut line ahead of Ryan Preece, his RFK teammate. It feels like those two teammates are going to be on the cut line the entirety of the run-in. Then above them, Chase Briscoe, Alex Bowman, plus 39 and 22, respectively. Then below the cut line, McDowell minus 43, Allmendinger minus 45, Kyle Busch minus 50. Do you think any of those guys are primed for a good run, maybe get a ton of stage points this weekend? I know probably we're both going to talk about Chris Buescher. This is where he got his first win back in Front Row Motorsports in a rain-shortened race. But out of the rest of the guys on that bubble, and especially under it, does anyone strike you as someone who could really run up front this weekend at Pocono?
As far as Pocono goes, I could potentially see. I mean, Kyle Busch, he's been in the sport forever. He's raced here, especially with the doubleheader. He's raced here. He's got plenty of ample experience here at Pocono. And like we said at the top of the show, Pocono is one of those tracks where your older veteran guys and guys who should be competing week in, week out do. And they stay up front here. Now, if RCR can just bring him a car that's capable enough, and they've done it a few times this year and last year where he's been oh so close to just getting that win that he hasn't had in so long. So obviously Kyle Busch, and before you even landed on Pocono, you were talking about guys below the cut line that could be a threat, blah 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 blah. I mean, AJ Allmendinger just sticking in my head, just with the races we have this summer.
It's so many road courses.
It's going to be, and if you have him and SVG make the playoffs, it's going to be rough to be NASCAR. It's going to be rough to be NASCAR. They're going to have a lot of bad press, if you will, about playoff format and when you're in. Because that's going to be that's going to shake things up. I mean, that knocks two guys out.
You're looking at Allmendinger, though. It was just a couple weeks ago where we thought AJ Allmendinger could maybe make the playoffs on points. Does have an engine failure in there and then got wiped out at Mexico. So if he gets the stage points he would have had in Mexico and doesn't blow an engine, I still think he could be in that conversation. So I wouldn't write off Allmendinger so quickly, especially we keep talking about he has to win a road course. Well, let's say in a different version of the universe, we don't get a ton of new winners. Let's say the cut line doesn't move a ton. Maybe a Michael McDowell, AJ Allmendinger don't win a road course. Well, then AJ Allmendinger could just run up front all day at road courses and bank 1 million stage points over the summer. Yeah. So anything's possible with these guys. Although for this weekend, I'm getting Ryan Preece vibes from Pocono. I don't know why. It just feels like the 60 is a car that's going to run 7th all day at Pocono. I have no idea why. It's just pure vibes. I can't explain it at all. And then one final thing I do want to talk about is the Ricky Stenhouse-Carson Hocevar situation. I know he said the payback will come off the track. Do you expect to see him do anything with Carson Hocevar this weekend in Pocono?
I know he said he's been known to not really turn guys, like as far as payback goes. He's been known to turn guys in other ways. But I do think if him and Hocevar are together on the track and Hocevar just, I mean, not even like gets into him or I think if Hocevar just races him hard at all, I think you see Stenhouse do something on the track. Maybe not right where you hook the guy into the wall or something, but I think he does something on the track to let him know, like, all right, that's it. We're cool. We're done. Because I just don't imagine him like walking up to him before or after the race and doing anything. So if nothing happens on the track this week, I don't think anything off the track happens. But I do think the rest of the season, Hocevar better be careful around the 47 because if he races him with an inch of aggressiveness, I think the 47 is going to show him the door, basically. So I don't think anything happens off the track. I think it will be on the track, and that's only if. And they tend to be together on the track a lot. Like it's almost shocking.
Yeah, they are.
How much they're right next to each other. for two guys who race quite aggressively. But that's always how it works out, I guess, in this sport.
Yeah, I could see definitely a version of events where if they start close together in a restart, you see a Denny Hamlin Ross Chastain situation out of turn one between those two guys from a couple years ago here at Pocono. And then one thing for Hocevar, we keep talking about him as if he is primed to make a run into the playoffs here. And obviously, if he wins a race, he has a great chance. But he's 20th in points right now. It's not an insurmountable gap for Hocevar, but I think the issue with him is he has been nowhere on road courses this year. Was slow all day at Coda. Was off the track a million times at Mexico. If he's going to run 25th every road course race, he's definitely in a must-win situation at this point. And maybe he knows that, and that's why he's racing so much more aggressively over the past few weeks.
I think he's in a must-win situation anyways, just with the amount of race winners I think we're going to have at the end of the year. I mean, 2 years ago we had, I want to say 14, 15 race winners.
There's a lot,
I think we're going to get to that number again. I think we're just going to have a lot of race winners this year. And you've already seen it with guys like SVG. Allmendinger can usually get a road course. Michael McDowell can get a road course. Chase Elliott can get a road course. He's pretty much already locked him in. But he won't shake it up as much. But there's guys who can shake it up from down below. Ty Gibbs, we mentioned him. If he gets hot and he gets his first win, he shakes it up big time. So I think most of the guys that aren't the first 3 to 4 out are in a must-win situation, period, no matter what. And maybe early to call that, but I don't think that's that far-fetched with all Josh Berry's got to win. He's knocking some people out. I think we're going to have some race winners this year.
Well, we'll have to see what happens. And as we outro here, I am going to commit to it. We're going to have an exciting week in Pocono. It's going to be a fun triangle weekend. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys enjoy the race. That's been Keegan. I've been Micah, and we will see you guys next week.